Today, Dr. Safi Kaskas and I will talk about recent news which reported that the Turkish government has decided to convert an ancient Orthodox Christian cathedral called the Hagia Sophia into a mosque. And in a moment, I will ask Dr. Kaskas to explain why this topic is relevant to our listeners. My name is Michael Wright. I am a program director for Peace Catalyst International, a Christian evangelical organization that seeks to promote greater understanding and edifying relationships between Christians and Muslims. This blog, entitled Divine Wink, can be defined in many ways. An important divine wink is the expression of God's applause when people who take their faith in God seriously come together for mutual edification and enlightenment despite our religious differences. I find that most religious misunderstandings occur because of differences in perspectives rather than differences in belief. The words divine wink are derived from Acts 17:30 in the New Testament, which says, "In the times of this ignorance God winked at, but now commands all men everywhere to repent." I encourage you to subscribe to my YouTube channel to explore additional divine winks that lead to common ground between Christianity and Islam. Dr. Safi Kaskas joins me today. He has studied Abrahamic religions and lectured throughout the United States on subjects related to Islam, the development of American Muslims, and the future of Islam in the U.S. With his study of early followers of Jesus and the development of the early church, he regularly speaks at universities, colleges, and churches on reconciliation between evangelicals and American Muslims. Dr. Kaskas and I share these goals for reconciliation between our two religions. Dr. Kaskas has also produced a unique modern language translation of the Holy Quran. Not only is it easy to understand for today's English speakers, this translation also includes cross-references to the Bible that demonstrate the Quranic ties to it. And most recently, Dr. Kaskas has organized the International Institute of Contemporary Quranic Research, which will be a forum for contemporary Islamic scholarship with the added goal of making this scholarship freely available online. Now let's get started with today's topic. As I said at the beginning, the news recently reported that the Turkish government has decided to convert an ancient Orthodox cathedral called the Hagia Sophia into a mosque. So, Dr. Kaskas, let's begin by, I'd like to ask you to explain to our listeners why this is relevant for our goal to promote greater understanding and edifying relationships between Christians and Muslims.
Good morning, Michael. Basically, it's an issue that we need to talk about because it affects our future relation. Muslims and Christian future relation. It's an important issue because when I look at an event, I don't look at it as in the here and now as much as I look at it in how it will affect our future. And our future are very sensitive. Here we're not only talking about the future of Christian and Muslim relation, we're talking specifically about the relations between Orthodox Christians and Muslims. And they are closer to each other and more neighborly, let's say, than other type of Christians and Muslims. We share the same countries sometimes, like in Lebanon, like in Turkey, like in other places around the world. The Orthodox Christians are still living with Muslims from the first century. So the relationship is very important. Usually, we all got in the habit in the United States to ask ourselves, what would Jesus do about something? Well, in this case, I try to propose for Muslims the question, what would Prophet Muhammad do about this situation? When I want to judge a situation that is current, by the way it affects me, I don't look at my emotions. They don't count. the way it affects me emotionally is not necessarily the way I should be understanding that event. I usually have to look at the Quran, what it says, and the Sunnah, the way of life of Prophet Muhammad, and what he instructed us to do about similar situation. Now, either way says that we should take a church and turn it into a mosque. The opposite is the correct situation. And we can find that opposite when we look at the life of Prophet Muhammad in Medina. Prophet Muhammad lived in Mecca and called people to the worship of the one God for over 10 years. And then he had to run, he and his followers, for their life into a neighboring city, later on became known as Medina. When he came to Medina, people came to him because they invited him to come. They came to him to pledge their allegiance to him. He said, on what basis? They say, what do you mean? We want you to be our leader. He said, yes, but on what basis? In my religion, everything is contractual. Everything has to be very clear. If we want to get married, we have a marriage contract. If we want to go into business, we have a business contract. If you want to buy, this is what he told the people at that time. You want me to lead you? We need to have basis for that leadership. On what basis? So he wrote the first social contract that defined the relationship between him and the people in Medina. This is 1400 years ago. The people of Medina were 45% pagan, Arab pagans, 40% Jews, Arab Jews, and the rest 15% were Muslims. So he was offering basically a social contract to a pluralistic society, a society that wants to live in peace, and its components are from various faith and no faith. So he offered them what is called the Constitution of Medina. In that constitution, you will be surprised to know that he made clear the right of everyone to have freedom of conscience, to worship in the way that will satisfy them. He didn't tell anybody that you need to become a Muslim to be accepted at all. As a matter of fact, that constitution doesn't mention at all that Islam is the religion of the state, or the Quran is the source of legislation at all. For all the people that call about Sharia, they need to learn from that, because the Prophet did not say that in his first constitution offer to the city he ruled. Instead, he said when Christians came to him from southern Arabia, from the city of Najran, to meet with him and discuss things with him, he met them inside his mosque. So the Christians came to the mosque because his mosque was at that time the seat where he ruled from, his office. So he discussed with them for 3 days whether they should become Muslims or whether he should become Christians. They called him to Christianity. They didn't just come to him to allow him to call them to Islam. When he called them to Islam, they said, we've been Muslims long before you were given this mission. We believe in God. We believe in Jesus, sent from God, the Word of God, for our enlightenment. So before they refused to become Muslims. Yet, before they leave, Prophet Muhammad gave them a covenant, a document that guaranteed them their rights, the rights to worship freely, forbidden any Muslims to destroy any of their churches, to take away even a brick from a church, restore churches that are under Muslim sovereignty, restore churches. This behavior tells me that he didn't want Christians to become Muslims. He wanted Christians to remain Christians, and he wanted Muslims to protect the Christian minorities that were living among them. So this is what Prophet Muhammad says. If you want to know what the Quran says, I will read for you. I have those verses ready for us to recall. It starts with the character of Prophet Muhammad. Allah tells him in the Quran that we have only sent you prophet as a mercy to the words. In Arabic, للعالمين, رحمة للعالمين, mercy to the words. In a different verse, he tells him, and you are a man of great moral character. Moral character doesn't say take churches from Christian and turn them into mosques. It says be kind to your neighbors if they're Christians. The Quran teaches that there is no compulsion in religion. It says in Surah 2, verse 256, there is no compulsion in religion. The difference between guidance and error has been made clear. Whoever rejects false gods and believes in God has grasped firm, unshakable support. God hears all and knows all. Surah 2, verse 256. In another verse, it says, had your Lord willed, all the people on earth would have believed, all of them entirely. It is then up to you, Prophet. Is it then up to you, Prophet, to compel people to believe? This is in Surah 10, verse 99. It's even discouraging the Prophet from trying to convert people from idol worshipping into Islam. God is telling the Prophet, your job is to just deliver the message and let people think about it. And those who want to be guided, I will guide them. God will guide them. Don't feel upset if they don't listen to you. Don't feel angry if they don't accept the religion I sent you with. It's up to us to guide them. It's up to you to deliver properly the message. So God is telling Prophet Muhammad, he meant for pluralism to exist. In another verse here, he says, had your Lord willed, he could have made all of the human being one single community, but he willed it otherwise. Hence, they'll continue to have the divergent views, all of them, except those on whom your Lord bestowed his grace. To this end, he has created them. In other words, God is telling Prophet Muhammad that he created us in order to struggle with our differences, to struggle with our diversity, to struggle to show our best character. Are we coming to him with humility, with humbleness, or are we trying to talk to others with arrogance, with ego motivated to show that our religion is better than other religions, that we are chosen people? God doesn't want that. He wants us to come to him willingly and with humility. So all of this, either whatever the Prophet has done, or what the Quran teaches, or what his second Caliph has done, Caliph Umar, when Jerusalem, when the Byzantine were kicked out of Jerusalem and the Muslim took over, Jerusalem actually did not fight. Jerusalem decided to surrender to the Muslims because they were not happy with the Byzantines, although the Byzantines were Christians at that time. Yet the people of the Levant, of the Middle East, almost surrendered to the Muslims because they're all Arabs. So basically, the patriarch of the largest church in Jerusalem wanted to deliver the keys to Umar himself, and Umar came and was invited to pray inside the church. He said, no, if I pray inside the church, my followers might turn it into a mosque. He prayed outside the church, and sure enough, his followers built a mosque outside the church. So I'm very happy to state that all these modes of behavior discourage Muslims from turning churches into mosques. And strategically, I think the move, I'm talking politics now, strategically, it's the wrong move, because it is turning friendly Orthodox Christians into potential enemies. And why should we antagonize our Orthodox neighbors? at a time when we mostly need friends in the Middle East. So it's the wrong move all the way around.
So now it's my understanding that this cathedral in recent times has not functioned as a church. Instead, it has been a museum. And I've seen some documentaries about the museum. It seems like it's a very fascinating museum. So what would be a better course of action given that the church has existed as a museum?
Well, the church actually was a church, was built to be a cathedral. It was built to be a cathedral to celebrate the greatness of the Byzantine Empire. That same cathedral was sacked by the Crusaders, Catholics, who came from the rest of Europe on their way to the Middle East to liberate Jerusalem from Muslims. But before they get to Jerusalem, they robbed everything in Constantinople. They ruined Constantinople. They took slaves from their Orthodox brothers, and they robbed everything in the church. So when the Muslims came, at least they show respect to the church and turned it into a mosque. This is when they first conquered Constantinople. That doesn't, see, my point, it doesn't matter historically what happened. In today's world, we have a different context. In today's world, Muslims need to decide who are they, what image they want to project to the rest of the world about who they are for the next 100 years. Islamophobes and the neocon in the last 20 years try to give Islam and Muslim a bad name. They call them terrorists. They call Islam a religion of terrorism. They call the Quran a book of terrorism. They try to ruin the reputation of Islam and Muslims. And they control a lot of the media. So they had the media in the United States available to them. Today, Muslims need to be very careful about projecting an image. Whatever Erdogan in Turkey is doing would affect me in the United States. So his decision is not a Turkish sovereign decision, although it is, but it's affecting me. So I have the right to comment on it because it reflects on who the Muslims in the world are today. What he did is not acceptable to me as a Muslim. What I would propose for him to do as a strategist is to invite the Greek Orthodox bishop from Greece, from Turkey, and from Russia, and invite Putin and our president to go there and deliver the cathedral turned museum back to them and say, this was built as a cathedral. Muslims want to show goodwill, and therefore we're giving it back to you as a cathedral, or maybe as a house of worship where everybody has the right to go in and worship. But it was built to be a house of worship. So as far as I'm concerned, what it was, what it turned to is not important. What we turn it into today, it's important that we don't turn it into a reason for a conflict, a new conflict. Doesn't hurt me at all as a Muslim to see it turned again into a cathedral. Right next door to it, there is a largest mosque in Istanbul, Sultan Ahmad Mosque. It's never full of people praying. So why do we need another mosque right next door to it? You know, a show of goodwill would be much more appreciative as far as I'm concerned than turning the museum into a cathedral. This is my opinion anyway, and it's not my opinion alone. I thought I'm lonely with that opinion the day it happened. Then I heard from the president of the Islamic Society of North America. He sent a statement everywhere in the United States and to the press saying that we are against that move. So Muslims in the United States, represented by their legitimate organizations, especially ISNA, Islamic Society of North America, the largest of Islamic organization, objected to the move. They see it my way, and I see it their way. You know, this move will not produce goodwill at all.
So if I've seen some suggestions, as you just alluded to, of making it a more of kind of like a generic place, house of prayer. Is that a feasible thing to do? And what might such a temple be called for that?
Michael, it's not feasible anymore. This is too late for this. Erdogan could have done anything he wants, because, to tell you the truth, I have document to show that Sultan Ahmed paid the Orthodox Church for the place and bought it personally from his own money. But he did it after he conquered the place, not before. So it was sold under duress, as far as I'm concerned. But he didn't have to pay any money for it. He had conquered it, but he chose, as a show of goodwill, to pay for it. We have the deed to show that he owns it personally, and he turned it into a trust. But this is beside the point. This is historical. Today, the context is different. Today, President Erdogan turned it into a mosque. End of the story. But I would have suggested that he would have turned it into a cathedral. And if we really are building bridges, and if the Orthodox Church want to follow Jesus' footsteps, after he would have given it to them, they would have invited Muslims to pray there too. Now, can you imagine this scenario? Turkey giving it back to the church, and church is inviting Muslims to pray there? That would have been the best possible scenario, as far as I'm concerned, in order to build reconciliation, build bridges, teach people how to live with their neighbors with love rather than with envy and hatred. You know, it's too late for that.
So we have looked at the ramifications for both Christians and Muslims. What are some of the ramifications associated with Israel, for example?
Well, Israel can use what happened in Istanbul today as an excuse, a precedent, to turn Al-Aqsa Mosque into the Temple of Solomon, the third temple, to build the temple there. You know, who's going to stop them? We given them the excuse to get away with it, and we shouldn't have done that.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds to me like we're basically
behind the eight ball.
We're criticizing something that has happened, but it's unlikely that it's going to change.
Exactly, unless when a new president of Turkey take over, decide to change it.
Yeah.
See, the problem here, we're not talking about permanency. We're talking about people whims. We saw millions of Muslims jumping up and down in joy because the museum that we already own, the building we already own, was turned into a mosque. What great achievement is this? There is no great achievement in this at all. If President Erdogan wants me to be happy, and I don't think he cares about me, but if he wants me as a common Muslim want to be happy, he will announce something strategic, like a common market among the Turkic state, where his grandfather came from the middle of Asia, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, and Turkey. I mean, look, we have Europe as an example with their common market. He wanted Turkey to join Europe. That the European rejected him because he has a country with Muslim majority, because of history, a bloody history where the Ottoman always blooded the nose of Europe. Well, this is history. We have a new context today. Europe rejected him. They should have accepted him. Okay. Now he needs to build his own common market. He talked about it, but nothing happened. And the greatest achievement I saw so far is in turning a building that Turkey owned into a mosque. This is not an achievement as far as I'm concerned. This is probably a liability. You know, the consequences are not good as far as my calculations are concerned. Strategic calculation, political and economic calculations. President Erdogan still have the opportunity. By the way, The West never left President Erdogan alone one day. They've been plotting against him from the day he took over. They hate to see a successful Muslim leader working for the best interest of his own people and not for the West. They would love Muslim leaders to be agents to the West. They don't want Muslim leaders to be independent and working for the best interest of Muslims who lives under them, who elected them. By the way, he's elected. Let's remind everybody that he is one of the few Muslim leaders that were elected democratically, okay, in a country that celebrates separation of church and state, you know. So look, the whole world been against him. So if he's looking for popularity, I don't blame him politically, but that move involved all Muslims, not just Turkish Muslims.
So I guess our efforts for me as a program director with Peace Catalyst and you for your activities that we've kind of been working mutually to establish better understanding and
build bridges,
edifying relationships between Christians and Muslims.
Yes.
This issue is somewhat of a setback for us.
Indeed, it is. It could have been a fantastic event that will give us tremendous power to move forward with the reconciliation. But it didn't happen. It just didn't happen. Instead, we have a setback.
Mm-hmm. Well, nevertheless, I see there's also a number of things that are going on that are encouraging with respect to our efforts, and we can certainly put our hands in God's our situation in God's hands and seek His guidance and move forward accordingly.
Michael, we as believers who take their faith seriously, we always put our matters in His hands. He's the manager of this universe. He manages our life and every atom in this universe. It's within His capability. But in the meantime, He says it's up to us to change our world. You know,
Sure.
I mean, what the problem is, you and I can only do it in a limited capacity. We're limited to what you and I can do, the people we can influence. This video is to try to bring reconciliation among people and to explain issues to them. You know, those Muslims that were jumping up and down in joy, they were not doing it because they're following the example of Prophet Muhammad, who teaches reconciliation and love. That's my understanding. I dedicated my life to learn his teachings, and this is what I found out. I found out that the Quran is teaching to honor the neighbor, to honor the beliefs of the people of the book, which is a term of endearment describing Christians and Jews. We're not doing that. Celebrating turning a church into a mosque is an act of tremendous act of arrogance. And God hates arrogance. In the Quran, God kicked Satan out of heaven because he showed arrogance when God asked him to bow to Adam. And he refused. He said, I'm better than him. Better than him is arrogance. Better than him because you created me from fire, you created him from dirt. You know, God knows what He's doing, but He wants us to also know what our role is and go ahead and do it. Contribute to bringing peace to this world. We may be successful, we may not be successful, but at least we need to continuously try. And for all my evangelical friends and neighbors, if you can bring peace to your own neighborhood and you're not doing it, you're not showing love to your Muslim brothers and your Jewish brothers and other neighbors, you're going to be asked about that. We need to work together. We need to put our hands together to establish peace in our neighborhoods. And the best way I know how to do it is to do what Jesus would do. is to do what the Quran would ask you to do. Love your neighbor. Because you love God, you have to love your neighbor. This is my message to the world, actually.
Well, let me see if I can bring this to a conclusion by saying that, there's a Christian song that, and the beginning words are, little is much when God is in it. And I think that should be our source of encouragement. And, there's a verse in the New Testament. It says, if God is for us, who can be against us?
Yes. And let me say, with God, nothing is impossible. Everything is possible with God. So we're always hoping. We're full of hope and we're full of faith. And we know with those efforts, if God like what we're doing, they will spread. We'll have more people coming on board saying, how can we help to build peace in our neighborhoods? I'm not asking you to go to Turkey to build peace over there. I'm asking you to build peace in your neighborhood with your next door neighbors. So let's all hope for the best.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
So thank you, Dr. Kaskas, for joining with me today. To you who have listened to our conversation, I encourage you to visit www.kaskas.com. That is Dr. Kaskas's website, and the name is very easy to spell. It is simply Kaskas. Among other good things, the website will show you how to acquire a copy of Dr. Kaskas's translation of the Quran into contemporary English. I also encourage you to read my novel, A Divine Wink, When Love and Religion Become Rivals. In the novel, Adila, a devout Muslim woman, falls in love with Martin, a devout Christian man, and their love struggles to survive opposition from their families and their separate, unsympathetic religions. I think you'll be pleased to learn how Martin and Adila deal with this opposition, and more importantly, how they come to discover the extraordinary common truths between Islam and Christianity that make their relationship both edifying and possible. Please go to www.adivinewink.com to make this novel a part of your life. While there, you will also find a link to Peace Catalyst International, which will give you an opportunity to financially support our important work. And I ask you to please help us, and I thank you.